downtown Morgan Hill. For the next hour, we're going to show you some of the interesting people, the cool events, and the fun things happening in downtown. We're going to visit the restaurants, we're going to talk to the people who make downtown the special place that it is. Welcome. This is Jennifer Tate, president of the Morgan Hill Historical Society, and Jennifer is going to talk to us a little bit about how downtown Morgan Hill came to be, some of the history and what's going on down here. So Jennifer, tell us about the history of Morgan Hill.
History of Morgan Hill. Well, Morgan Hill is named after Hiram Morgan Hill, as everyone now knows, I'm sure, who lives here. We began as a ranching area. This community did not really grow into a community of its own until the late 1800s. Madrone was where the hot spot was. But when the Murphys decided that they would subdivide their land, they gave Daniel Murphy gave 4,500 acres to his daughter Deanna. I learned yesterday that it's Deanna, not Diana. And when the Hills split up, they decided that they would subdivide their property, Villa Miramonte, and they gave it to Philip, Mr. Phillips. He named it the Morgan Hill Ranch. So when the property was divided, it was divided up into segments of the Morgan Hill Ranch. Consequently, the name Morgan Hill became more well known. It had begun when the Hills would come down to their home on Villa Miramonte. It's our Victorian house on Monterey, down by Wright Avenue. The train would stop there and the conductor would announce Morgan Hills. But the real Morgan Hill part is because of the Morgan Hill Ranch.
Excuse me, where was the Morgan Hill Ranch? What area did that encompass?
That encompassed 4,500 acres around the Morgan Hill house. The Morgan Hill house is actually in its original position. So the reason it was called Villa Miramonte was because it looked at El Toro, which we have in the background here. And it was just the 4,500 acres around that property. The Murphys had property, the Dunns had property. Catherine Dunn was originally married to a Murphy. So they were all subdividing. We moved then from being primarily cattle ranching into orchards. We have a very, very fertile valley here, and prunes was the big crop in the area. Those of you who now go up and down 3rd Street will see the fenced-in area where the mural is was the Sunsweet Drying Center. The train was right there, so we were set up already to become a town. And then in the early 1900s, the town of Morgan Hill wanted to incorporate. But in order to incorporate, you had to have 500 people living within 1 square mile, which by today's standards is ridiculously easy. By yesteryear standards, it was not that simple. So by 1906, we had the 500 people. We applied to the county, got put on the ballot. There was the usual heated discussion, the pros and the cons of why to incorporate. Those who did not want to incorporate because they were afraid that the taxes would be raised, that the city would take on too much responsibility, they would make too many changes. Conversations don't change through the years.
Right.
History is there for us to learn by, but it does repeat itself. But it did pass. We became a city. We have grown since then into quite the city, as this segment, the future segments that you're going to be watching will show you how we have grown. But our beginnings came from businessmen who were really full of vision, saw that we had an opportunity to become a thriving little city, if you will, and put that vision into place. And we are benefiting now from their ability to look further into the future.
What year were we incorporated?
1906,
Okay.
November 10th of 1906. And the vote was an overwhelming 2-to-1 majority. So everybody that could vote wanted to make sure that we did become a city, and we will always have our pros and cons in this city, but everybody jumps in, everybody has an opinion, everybody shares their opinions, and everybody accepts the other person's opinion as an opinion so that we have some intelligent dialogue. We've always had intelligent dialogue here, and that, I think, is part of our heritage in Morgan Hill.
Do you have any comment about the future of the town? You know, this will be history someday.
Yes.
And how we may be learning from our own history.
Oh. We are always making history. I was thinking of that this morning, that today is tomorrow's history. And I think that we are learning that we still have to have dialogue. We still have to get in there and work together. I am the president of the Historical Society Board, which is a volunteer organization. We are definitely a community of volunteers. We care about this community. So I think our future looms bright because of the heart that we have in this city.
I'm here with Maureen Druniani with the Community and Cultural Center in Morgan Hill. And Maureen, can you tell us a little bit about how the impact of this center has had on Morgan Hill, especially downtown?
Absolutely. We really consider the Morgan Hill Community and Cultural Center the gateway to downtown, and we want the community to feel that it is a gateway to the downtown. So many wonderful events occur here. Particularly this past year, we've really had an influx of new events occurring, particularly at the outdoor amphitheater. The Friday night music series moved here last summer and was just a wonderful success, and it's scheduled to be here again this summer. Also, the Downtown Association has scheduled several concerts here and movie nights throughout the summer. A fun and notable one that will happen this coming spring is the West Coast...
The barbecue cook-off?
The barbecue cook-off.
The No Bull barbecue cook-off.
The No Bull barbecue cook-off, which I am understanding is going to get national TV coverage. We also have the United States Air Force Band coming here as well, and that will be a free event for the community. People know about the Community and Cultural Center for social events, for weddings and things like that, but we also want them to be aware of the Community and Cultural Center as a place to have business events and even small business meetings, particularly for those businesses that may not have office space or meeting space. The Cultural Center is a perfect place for those types of events as well.
And there's ceramic art classes, yoga classes, I believe, that go on here?
We do have ceramics classes here. We have a lovely ceramic studio, and we have a dance studio that has yoga classes, Pilates classes, and we have some other dance type classes that are happening here, including jazzercise and tap.
And I see a meeting today going on in one of the buildings. Do you use the space for meetings?
We do use the space for meetings, and it's an excellent place to have that small business meeting, particularly if you don't have space for meetings in your place of business.
And my favorite event here is the quilt show during the Taste of Morgan Hill. Tell us a little bit about the quilts that go on.
Yes, the quilt show come here every year in conjunction with the Taste of Morgan Hill, and the entire facility is taken up with beautiful displays of quilts, and it really is a marvelous event to see. Another wonderful community event that happens here is the Mushroom Mardi Gras. They take over the entire outdoor facility and go on down Depot with all the fun events and activities for that.
Okay, Maureen, it's interesting. This is the gateway to downtown. Have you seen much in the future of what's going to happen here? Is there anything on the horizon that's going to change?
I think that we're just going to continue to see more and more events happening here. It's been a place for community events since it opened over 7 years ago, but we're seeing an increase, particularly with the outdoor events that happen at the outdoor amphitheater. This summer, truthfully, every weekend is filled with something happening at the amphitheater. The other gem that's part of this campus is our playhouse. And we'd love to see the community thinking of that as another place for community events. South Valley Civic Theater is the resident theater company there, and they do some fantastic presentations. But there's lots of opportunity for more events to come there as well.
I'm I'm with Leslie Miles, a principal of Weston Miles Architecture. Leslie, we're in front of the Granary. This is a building that you've spent a lot of time and effort to refurbish. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done with this building and its impact on downtown Morgan Hill?
Great. Thank you very much, Marianne. Charles Weston, who is my partner and husband, is also an architect, and he and I purchased the building in 2003. We were very interested in reusing an existing building and redeveloping it into a green building. We found that this building had been derelict for 7 years when we bought it, and because of our specific interest in both sustainability and really developing green, we felt that it was a perfect opportunity to really set the standard for downtown Morgan Hill.
Okay, one question I have is, how do you think your building will set as an example for downtown, and how do we see it playing into everything with the train, the transportation, the location? How can we tie all this in and give downtown Morgan Hill a good example?
Well, one of the things that was really important was really looking at transit-oriented development. And so more and more now we're looking at developing in areas where we have specific transportation, we can actually walk to things. So right now we're just right next door to us is actually the train station, as well as there's bus lines, and so we're really central into the downtown. The thing that is also important in how we kind of set a tone for the downtown is hopefully we're setting a tone that really involves sustainability and walkability and mixed use. Because in the building we have offices, but we also have a restaurant, and we're hoping to eventually build residential mixed use, live work perhaps next door. So that's really the focus. Yeah.
Okay, mixed use and sustainability is interesting. You don't hear those together very often.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've done with this building in terms of recycling and sustainability?
Well, we actually recycled the building, and that was really key. So we recycled 75% of the building, and so it's just the building footprint that was the original building. And then on top of that, we really looked at the existing exterior was all really hard-packed dirt and paving, and so we tore that all up and developed an orchard that was based on the historic or the heritage fruit trees that had been here in the valley before.
Right, right. And I see on your orchard you have everything growing from flowers to fava beans to fruit trees. It's an interesting wild mess. Tell us a little bit about your plan on this. It is not a manicured landscape.
No, right at the moment it's not manicured. It will look more manicured once we take the favas out. One of the things that we found is, ultimately speaking, basically I'm pretty lazy when it comes to gardening. And so we actually have never tilled the soil here at all. Everything that we have done we've just worked with mulch and compost on top of the existing paved areas. And so over the past 5 years, really, we've allowed the cover crops, or the fava beans and the vetch, to actually develop the soil. And so we're very excited this year to see that we have a lot of fava beans.
Leslie, tell me a little bit about the paving material in this parking lot. It looks like gravel, but you've told me once it's not.
No, it's actually pervious concrete. And so what it works like is a big sponge. So as you can see, although it rained quite a bit today, there's no standing water anywhere. And as the rain comes down, it just percolates in and is held and then is released gradually to the aquifers. So it's a wonderful opportunity to provide on-site water retention and also eliminate the cost of drainage structures. So it was really a wonderful win-win situation. And then right behind us, too, you can see this is all pervious, whereas this was a driveway before as well.
Leslie, you have solar panels on your building, I see. Can you tell me a little bit about this, especially about the savings that you get?
Sure. We actually have 99 solar panels, and so it's a 16 kilowatt system. And when we installed it, one of the things that was a bit of a disadvantage of having an existing building is you kind of are stuck with the roof lines. But so this time of year, we're not getting a whole lot of solar generation, but during the summertime, we're getting around 100 to 125 kilowatts a day of solar generation. Part of that is impacted a little bit just by the location and the orientation of the roof, but we found that we anticipate, along with tax credits and that sort of thing, actually having the system paid for in about 5 years. So it's generating about 25 to 45% of our energy for the entire building.
We're here today with Officer Pennington from the Morgan Hill Police Department. Officer Pennington, we have questions for you regarding the traffic in Morgan Hill downtown, specifically the downtown area. Now, I noticed that we've had some speed humps put in. You have a strong presence here. What do you think is going on with the Morgan Hill traffic downtown? Have you seen a change?
I've definitely seen it slow down since the humps were installed, and we've been a little bit more proactive on the enforcement in the downtown area. As you know, the 25 speed limit is basically active from Monterey and Dunn till Monterey and Maine. And the downtown area gets really busy just before noon up till about 1:30 with the lunch crowds. And then in the evening hours, it gets pretty busy with the evening for the dinner. Right after commute, usually about 5:30 is when it starts getting really busy here in the downtown. But we do have a lot of cars that still don't stop for the pedestrians and don't yield to them. And so we show a little bit more presence there, and hopefully they'll start stopping. We do issue a lot of citations as well for people who just simply are not paying attention and don't yield, as well as the ones that are going well over the speed limit, which makes it unsafe.
Now, you've been a motorcycle officer for how long?
I'm just finishing my 4th year term. It ends this June, and then I'll go back to most likely graveyards patrol.
In that 4 years, have you noticed a difference, a change in the Morgan Hill traffic downtown?
Yes, I have. At the very beginning of my tour, you could easily write citations all day long for well over 15 to 20 miles an hour over the posted speed, and that has decreased quite a bit. So.
Okay, great. Do you have any comments, any thoughts about the future of the traffic patterns through Morgan Hill? I mean, I remember when this used to be the main route to Los Angeles, and of course it's much better now. Do you have any thoughts about the future?
I'm just hoping that the traffic maintains at least going slow through the downtown. It makes it safer again for not only our bicyclists, but our pedestrians throughout the day and in the evening hours.
I'm here with George Briones, the Executive Director of the Morgan Hill Downtown Association. George, I understand there's some really interesting things happening in Morgan Hill these days. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in downtown in terms of events and entertainment and fun things to do?
I'd be happy to share that info with you. It's downtown, there's a lot that's been happening, there's a lot that's going on. I'm excited about it, a lot of people are excited about it. We have everything from the Taste of Morgan Hill to the Mushroom Mardi Gras. We also have events during the summer that are things like our Thursday Street Dance, which happens on the new 3rd Street Promenade. The Farmers Market, which every Saturday, May through December, happens over at the 3rd Street Promenade also, and in the parking lot of the train station. We have a spring and a fall wine stroll, and then we also have, which is an event that's really kind of kicked off, and people really enjoy that one as well.
Tell me a little bit about the wine stroll. What is that?
The wine stroll, we work with the wineries here in South County, and we have anywhere from 15 to 20 wineries that are in 20 different locations, or 16, 20, however many wineries we have. They're in that many different locations throughout the downtown. And it affords people an opportunity that may not be super familiar with downtown, a chance to come in and maybe discover a new place, but at the same time, it gives them an opportunity, if they're not really familiar with the wineries that we have in the area, to become more familiar with the wineries. So it's been an excellent event that has really taken off, and it's one that people are really excited about. We also have a series of free outdoor movies that happen throughout the summer. Those are over at the Community Cultural Center in the amphitheater, which is also where the Chamber does their Friday night music series, and it's where the Downtown Association does their monthly concert series throughout the course of the summer. There's car shows. Part of the Taste of the Morgan Hill event is that there's a car show, And then there's also a separate car show in October each year, which is the California Autumn Classic, and that's where there's about 200 classic British sports cars that come and line Monterey Road. So another really neat event that takes place. There's just so many things going on. It's just like we can go on and on and on, and it's exciting. It's really exciting, and people are noticing, and people are coming out. You know, with 3rd Street coming in now, it affords a new place to have more events, and that's a good thing. We'll continue to have things that take place over at the Community Cultural Center, things that take place over on Monterey Road, and there's always little things that happen also inside the different businesses. That, you know, certain nights you might find at one of the coffee shops or one of the restaurants that there's a certain performance that's going on, and there's the comedy nights that take place each month over at the Playhouse. So yeah, there's a lot happening in downtown when it comes to events and entertainment.
Are you finding that these events and entertainment are drawing people from outside areas? San Jose, Gilroy, even further up north?
They are. Actually, there's a new event that's coming on board, and it'll take place in the spring, summer each year, but it's a No Bull Barbecue Cook-Off. That's bringing competitors and visitors from outside the community to Morgan Hill, and they actually stay overnight. The same thing happens with our California Autumn Classic event, where a lot of those competitors that are showing their cars are coming from all over Northern California, but we're finding people coming from all over the state to actually attend the event. And at our wine strolls, believe it or not, we've actually had people come from out of state to attend the wine strolls. We've had them come from as far as Nevada, and in one instance we had a couple that came from Texas for that event. It was amazing.
Okay, anything coming up in the future for downtown? I know we've got plans, we've got some thoughts on how we're going to structure the downtown. Anything you can talk about?
You know, there is a lot coming down the road for downtown. We're entering another exciting period where we're going to see some new development in downtown, and that's exciting because it'll bring more people living in the downtown with more residential units. We'll also have more retail opportunities for people. There's already some really nice shopping in downtown, and again, it's kind of a hidden jewel that there's a bookstore and a music store, and there's a men's clothing store, but there's women's clothing, and there's gift shops, and all these great offerings. But we're going to have more of that, and within the next 3 to 5 years, I think there'll be a big increase in the activity in downtown, in the amount of people that live downtown, and just some of the options. You know, we have some of the best dining that you can find in all of California.
Tell me about the mushrooms. A lot of people have been asking me what the mushrooms are all about. Can you just briefly let me know what those are?
Sure. Mushroom art is an ongoing public art display, and each one of the mushrooms is sponsored by an individual, a company, an organization. They name an artist, and then they name a beneficiary, a nonprofit organization, to be the beneficiary. Those mushrooms are currently on public display, and what will happen is we will have a public auction, and the proceeds from the sales of those mushrooms go back to the individually named nonprofit organizations in the name of the sponsor.
Right.
So we're looking for the economy to kick around for us a little bit because we want those nonprofits to get the most that they absolutely can.
We're with Rosie Bergen today at Rosie's at the Beach. And Rosie, could you talk a little bit about the restaurant scene in Morgan Hill and the changes that you've seen in the time that you've been here?
Sure. We have been here for 12 years, and when we opened 12 years ago, there were just a couple of restaurants. And what I've noticed over the last, well, since then, several more restaurants have come into town, and it's been a really good thing for downtown Morgan Hill. We have a lot of variety. And people might think, oh, there's too many restaurants, it's going to be hard on your business, but it's really the opposite is true. More people come to an area where there are more restaurants, and there's a variety that's available to everybody. And there's a lot of different types of cuisine that's offered, different times of the day, so it's not really a competition, it's more vibrant for downtown.
Have you seen anything with the lunch crowd? We've got the 3rd Street Promenade opening, we've got the courthouse. Have you seen more lunch traffic lately?
We've seen, it's probably about the same amount of lunch traffic, but we do see different people. We're definitely noticing people from the courthouse. And it's something that you have to talk to the customer to find out where they're coming from. And so we have definitely seen some people coming over from the courthouse. I hope it gets better, but you know, we do get some traffic from that.
What about the nightlife? It seems like there's a lot more people downtown now in the evenings after work, you know, stop by for a glass of wine or happy hour. Are you seeing that changed over the past 12 years?
I'd say when we first opened, it was very, very quiet. We thought we were going to be open till midnight, and that really wasn't the case. The sidewalks kind of closed up at 9 o'clock, but we were trying to create a set schedule, and so even though it was tempting to close early, we just said, you know, these are our hours, let's stay open later. And so that way people knew that they could come downtown and still get something to eat at 9 o'clock at night.
Right. What about the outdoor seating area? As I recall, you didn't always have that. What prompted you to put the outdoor patio together?
The outdoor patio has just been wonderful. We were getting really, really busy, and we were actually considering putting a second story on the building to do some dining upstairs and maybe a little patio on the front of the building upstairs. But once we looked into that, it was going to be very, very expensive. And then just one day, my husband just had the brainstorm, looking out the window, said, why don't we just go out front? Let's pursue that. So we approached the city, we put some drawings together, and they were careful with this because nobody had put a patio out yet. So we kind of trailblazed there. They wanted to make sure we did it correctly because they wanted other people to follow suit. And right off the bat, it was busy. The patio has just been a really great thing. People want to sit out there, and it's just curb appeal for downtown.
Yeah, it's great because I do see people out front. Now we also have the outdoor seating at some of the other restaurants here in town, Ragout's, Fusia. I think that this brings more people downtown just by the visibility. What do you think?
Absolutely, I agree. When people are driving down the street, you know, they see people sitting outside, and people want to go to places where they see people are dining there already, or an interesting, you know, venue. So it's really been great, and we're hoping that the traffic slows down a little bit. And I think it's helped with that because people are slowing down to look at who's sitting on the patio. It's a good thing. It helps a lot.
I'm here with Brad Jones, the owner of Booksmart. Brad, I know that you have had a couple of locations in your businesses in downtown Morgan Hill. You've been here for a long time, and you can tell us maybe a little bit about the evolution of businesses in Morgan Hill.
Right, yeah, we actually moved here 20 years ago to open a restaurant in Morgan Hill, and we were in that business for 3 years, and our partners decided they wanted to move on. So my wife, Cinda, and I decided to look for another business to get into. We wanted to stay downtown Morgan Hill, and at the time there was no bookstore available to the community, so we decided that's what we would do. We started out on the corner of 2nd and Monterey downtown, in a small space, which is much smaller than what we have now, and we were there for 12 years. And then we started looking for a space that was big enough for us to grow into, and working with some local property owners, we did that about 3 years ago. And so far it's been very successful. Even in a down economy, it's made it much, much tougher for us to grow, but I think that the downtown is starting to mature. We have seen a lot of very good restaurants come into the downtown, which has really become the anchor for the downtown, and we have a lot of smaller businesses around it. Some service businesses, salons and spa type businesses, and also other retail businesses are down here now, and most of them seem to be very solid, where for quite a while we were seeing businesses turn over. You know, every year they were something new. The ones we've had here for a while now seem to be in place and to be doing okay.
What do you think, Brad, the secret of the success for these long-term businesses like yours has been? I know it's been tough for businesses downtown. What's the secret?
Well, the secret certainly is differentiating yourself from the big box stores that we have in the rest of the community. You have to focus in on a niche and provide what the local customer wants, more completely than the big box stores do. Big box stores have a tendency to carry just the top of whatever category they're in, where local businesses will quite often carry things that you don't see in the big box stores, and it allows them to be appealing to local community.
And one question, Brad, what do you see as the future of the downtown businesses as we go forward to attract new people, to bring people downtown? What do you see in the future?
Well, I think that the future of downtown depends on the growth in the downtown being mixed use, meaning that we bring more residences, more offices, and then some other retail into the downtown. We still feel like we don't have quite the critical mass downtown that we need to be a shopping destination. So we need to add some more businesses to that. But the retail kind of follows rooftops, so I think you have to get the residential in place. And we have a plan with our community to do just that, and we hope that it happens pretty soon.
We're here with Morgan Bricka from Murals by Morgan, and Morgan is the lady who has painted the murals downtown here. Morgan, can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration for these murals?
Sure. The direction was given by the redevelopment committee of Morgan Hill, and they gave the concept of being inviting and have a lot of people in it and show sort of downtown vitalization. That was the concept given to me. And then I came up with the individual concepts of what was going to be in each panel and how we were going to sort of tell a story, and we just went back and forth and developed the concepts.
That's interesting. I understand you used a historical photo for one of the mural pieces?
Yeah, so the committee gave me the book about the history of Morgan Hill, and it had a lot of good photos. And actually a lot of the early concepts came from that. So the prune picking family, the picture of 3rd Street, and the house of the Morgan Hill house, all of those were from the historical book.
Good. One important factor is downtown art. How important is it to have art in a downtown, especially in a small community like this?
Well, I think it makes a huge difference. I'm biased. You know, it really makes a place special. And I notice, maybe just because I'm a mural artist, but when I go to a community where there's murals, I feel like it's special. Like the people love it. The tourists always want to take the photos of the mural. You know, you go to a coffee shop that has a mural on the side. It makes it special. People remember it. It's not just anywhere. It's your town. It reflects back a character that's being expressed about your town. It's telling a little bit of a story about, you know, this one, obviously the history, but it makes a space more unique and more personal than I think anything else design-wise could.
Okay, it's interesting. So what are your plans for the rest of this? Will all the panels eventually be filled in?
This is the finished concept right now, and it basically came from the city had a certain budget and a certain length of wall, and it's also nice to break them up with these bright patches of color. They're sort of in the urban area representative of, you know, the way you go along the street and there's different buildings or colors as you go along that are more linear. So it helps the mural flow. Eventually they could be, you know, decorated by an elementary school if they wanted to, or, you know, we talked about a lot of different ideas of how to do that, but for now this is the statement, and I feel like it really worked well. I like the spaces between the panels, and they help incorporate the story and the individual people.
We're here with Steve Tate, Mayor of Morgan Hill, and Steve is going to talk to us today about the 3rd Street Promenade. Beautiful place. Steve, can you tell me a little bit about this?
Well, the 3rd Street Promenade is one of the major steps. It's kind of the major catalyst to what we're trying to do to totally revitalize downtown Morgan Hill. Residents of Morgan Hill, people that have their heart in Morgan Hill, love the downtown. It's a great downtown. We've got fantastic restaurants. We've got quite a few shops, but it's not quite the vitality mecca that we want it to be. So we're taking a whole series of steps to make it, give it more vitality. to get even more restaurants, to get more shops, and to get residents to live downtown as well. We plan to do a lot of residential development down here, and that'll add to the vitality because there'll be more people in downtown all the time.
So this is part of a cycle then, to bring people down to Morgan Hill, to bring the restaurants more business, to bring more people to the restaurants.
Yeah, and with the economy doing what it's doing, if we started doing more commercial development now, or we started doing more residential development now, there probably wouldn't be takers for it. So we've got to time it according to the economy. What we could do now is take this 3rd Street. 3rd Street has always been an extra wide street, and it goes down and it connects the downtown to the train station, so it connects to transportation. And so it's a vital element of that revitalized downtown, and to get it developed now so that people can see what we're trying to do with Morgan Hill, and so that we can have these myriad of activities that we're going to have down here on 3rd Street. Concerts, Easter egg hunt on Easter, all kinds of concerts, all kinds of, we'll have the farmers markets here, and we'll just have activities going here all the time. And as people see that, they'll see the opportunity to develop, as Poppy's is already here on 3rd Street, but other businesses will want to be part of the 3rd Street thing. It boosts the connection between the transportation at the railroad station and the courthouse, which is also on the other side of the railroad station. It boosts the corridor that connects them with downtown. So as we build up downtown, 3rd Street is just a natural part and the obvious place to begin. It'll be the catalyst that'll bring so much more to make Morgan Hill, which is a fantastic place already. We love Morgan Hill, and it's going to get even better. So,
the courthouse, I was going to ask you about that. One of the things 3rd Street will do, I'm assuming, is bring people from the courthouse into downtown. It's walking distance, there's restaurants here for lunch. How has that been working?
What's happened with the courthouse, we had hoped that when we first opened the courthouse, people would flood the downtown and start using the restaurants. But you have to remember, before the courthouse was built, it was located in San Martin. San Martin has a lot of nice things about it, but it doesn't have any restaurants. Right. So people that worked at the courthouse were used to bringing their lunch to work, and they still are. So when the courthouse first opened, people in the habit of bringing their lunch to work are still doing it. But we're starting to see more and more that they are coming down, at least for special occasions when they celebrate a birthday or do something like that. They're starting to come downtown. The restaurants down here, they're all fantastic. There's not a bad restaurant in the whole city of Morgan Hill. And as the people at the courthouse discover that, I think they're going to want to go out more and more to lunch, and it's going to start working. Not as quickly as we had hoped, but it's going to take off.
What about transportation? That's something that I've always been interested in. The train is here, the train depot is here. Is the 3rd Street going to help facilitate more commuters on the train, do you think?
Absolutely. What 3rd Street facilitates is kind of the catalyst to get this thing going, where we develop residences downtown. As people want to live downtown, they want close proximity, so they don't have to have maybe even one car. At least not have 2 cars, so that they can walk to the train station and take the train to work, whatever they're going to do there, and live with less transportation of their own and rely on public transportation more and more. It's the whole smart growth idea of concentrating your development so you don't have sprawl outside the center of the city. Keep it concentrated in the city and have it close to transportation. And a lot of communities are doing it. I think we're going to do it a little better than the other communities. I think we have the right idea.
Yeah. I know it took a long time to get to this point on 3rd Street. Long time and a lot of money. Any interesting stories about building this, on the history of how it came to be?
Well, we're fortunate. We've since 1977, we've had a redevelopment agency here in the city of Morgan Hill. Redevelopment agency allows you to take, as you redevelop, you get increased property taxes. The increased property taxes go into the redevelopment agency, and you can use that money for development. So we've had that money to do 3rd Street. We've got all the signage that we've done downtown. We've bought some certain properties downtown that we are going to use also as catalysts for the next step in terms of building residences, maybe putting in a movie theater, and doing other revitalization things. We bought properties that we will then work with a developer. We're in the process of picking a developer to work with us to develop both commercially and residentially mixed use. environment so that the whole thing comes together. And so we own the site that the Granada Theater is on, the downtown mall is on, where Royal Clothiers is on the corner of 2nd. We own those sites. We'll choose a developer to work with to develop those into mixed use and start finding some maybe some anchor tenants, kind of maybe a grocery store as an anchor tenant, maybe the movie theater can be an anchor kind of thing, and then use residences to bring in more commercial and use more commercial to bring in more residences, and it'll take off.
Perfect cycle. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add? Future development and future plans down here?
We have a complete downtown master plan, a detailed master plan that we implemented late last year. It ups the densities in terms of how much residences we can do. We can do some third-story kinds of units, condominiums and apartments, and we can even do some four-story as long as the setback is right and it's not overbearing and things like that. So all those things are in place now, and we're just hoping the economy helps us as we start recovering the economy, that we start seeing people interested. I know there's one person that I know is extremely interested in moving their residents from the suburbs downtown, the suburbs up in the hills. That is me. I'm going to be one of the first residences down there. So, and we think there's a lot of people like that.
I'm with Greg Sellers, who is the president of Burnham Energy, city council member for Morgan Hill, and the liaison to the Downtown Association. Greg, you've got a lot of things going on involved with the city of Morgan Hill. What do you see going on down in Morgan Hill? Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that are going on from the city perspective?
Sure, and particularly in downtown. For me, this is a very exciting time. I actually came back to my hometown 20 plus years ago to run the Downtown Association, and so I've been very interested. We've lived downtown within a few blocks of the downtown core for the last 20 years, and have worked here for most of that time. So in addition to my work on the council, it's always been very, very important to me personally and our family, the success of the downtown. So, and for me, this is the most, I think, exciting time really in the history of downtown for a couple of reasons. We've finally had a lot of different things that individually were beneficial, that all have come together really. We've had the financial commitment from the city has finally been firmed up. The direction that we want to go as a community has really, which is probably the most important part, has really been defined in the last year or two. And now, despite, or maybe in some cases because of the economy, we're in a position where we can really move forward quickly. So I'm very excited with what we've been able to accomplish, but even more excited about what is on the horizon.
So what do you see on the horizon for downtown?
Well, I think we have had, a lot of the things that we like about our downtown, its quaintness and small town feel, are things that we definitely want to keep and maintain. But there are the limitations in its current formation that I think we're looking to move beyond. The ability to attract, first of all, a variety of retail that enhances what we've already got and builds on the retail that's successful here now. And part of that is having a mixed variety of uses in a much higher density here that we have. And we've had both voter initiative and a lot of council initiatives that have defined that and allowed for that. And so that to me is going to be the biggest difference. I think seeing a few developments that are far more intense than we've seen in the past, but that are entirely appropriate for the downtown, that include a lot more residential units, a lot more folks who actually live here, but also include commercial and office spaces, and allow for some uses that we currently don't have, whether we've talked about different grocery or other outlets that might serve the local community, and also most significantly theater outlets, for instance. Bringing some of those back would be key.
How do you see the 3rd Street Promenade playing into this? Is it bringing people downtown? Is it going to open up some of the corridors? How do you see the 3rd Street playing in?
Yeah, well, there's a direct and an indirect benefit, I think, to the downtown, downtown's 3rd Street. The direct benefit, I think, is that it is such a flexible space. It would be allowed, you can close off sections, you can close off the entire street. It's laid out to very strongly encourage pedestrian-oriented and event-oriented activities. I'm proud to have helped start the Taste of Morgan Hill 20 plus years ago, and it's whether I'm thinking about that or other events, and certainly the Thursday night music series, and the farmers market will be 2, I think, anchors, particularly this summer, that are making me more excited about the summer than I even usually am. So I think that's the direct benefit, is that we'll be able to have those events in an appropriate venue instead of trying to squeeze in the Thursday night music or trying to have the farmers market a few blocks away. The indirect benefit, though, maybe the most significant, I think, is it lays out, it kind of shows what direction we're going in. It gives folks a sense of, wow, there's activity, there's commitment, there's investment on the part of the city and by extension the community. Whether you look at the quality of the design, the extensiveness of the work that's been done, or even the mural, it's a strong, really, indication, I think, that we as a community are dedicated to our downtown, are looking forward to doing even more things in the future.